First speaker is a gentleman I've had the pleasure with to prepare conferences, and when we prepare conferences, usually we work together for a long time, and in the end, we figure out who's going to do what. And when he first came in contact with Theosophy, he thought, this is too good to be true, so I have to figure out a way. Betty's already smiling here. I have to figure out what's wrong with it. And now, 35 years later, I still sometimes, when I work with him, have the idea that he's trying to do that. Because he comes up with really original ideas and perspectives, and he challenges what other people think. He's also the editor of Lucifer, the magazine of the Theosophical Society, Point Loma, Blavatsky House. And one of the guests here said to me, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, is he the editor, or is he also the person who takes care of all the publications? Because it seems like all the articles come from Barend Voorham. It's a pleasure to introduce Barend Voorham.
Always made in cooperation with my fellow editors and everybody of the society. We do everything in common, in cooperation. There's also this speech I have made with my friends. Dear friends, the great paradox of religion is that on the one hand it inspires humans to magnificent actions, to extensive perceptions of the universe, but on the other hand it's the main source of all kinds of misery and pain. And the explanation of this paradox is given by H.P. Blavatsky when she states that there is a big difference between religion, with a capital R, and a religion. Yes, just one time. Religion is the most noble faculty of human consciousness. It's the perception of the oneness, of the unity. In fact, it's atomic consciousness. And whether you derive the word religion from the Latin religere, to gather or to be united, from religens, meaning referring to gods, or from religare, to be bound fast together, it always has that element of unification, of bringing together. And the more universal our concept of religion, the closer you come to the real meaning. If you include only your friends or your family or your compatriots or your fellow believers, you are not a religious person. When you exclude animals, plants, yes, even one living being, you are not really religious. Religion has nothing to do with tenets, let alone dogmas. Its most important principle is the fact that we all belong to each other, that we are all living beings, and as the Bible puts it, bone from each other's bone, flesh from each other's flesh. Verily, we are parts of each other, branches or twigs from the same tree of life. And there should therefore be a source from which everything flows forth. Religion is unification with divine within, unification with what in Sanskrit is called Atman, the self. And since Atman is the self in every being, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you cannot exclude even a single atom from the oneness of life. But as the Roman philosopher and orator Cicero so clearly states, a religious man is not a passive man. He has to choose to think and to be active in referring the gods. In other words, religion doesn't mean to sit still and meditate alone. You have to translate your religious visions to daily life. If you don't do that, you're not a religious human being, but rather a hypocrite. If we combine these three elements, we can define religion as follows. Religion is aiming for unification with the source in which everything is rooted, by choosing an attitude in life which is consistent with our noblest aspects of consciousness, and consider this as the highest law or duty. And the words law or duty, in Latin lex, is from the same root as religere. That means that the religious conception of unity and oneness, the noblest one can imagine, is like a law or a duty for you. The Sanskrit word dharma expresses the same idea. Dharma is also translated as duty or law, but sometimes also as religion. Dharma is derived from the Sanskrit root dri, which means to support. So by fulfilling your duty as a law of nature, you are supporting, you are sustaining the cosmos. So being religious is sustaining the cosmos, your cosmos, the society you belong to, your country, your world. Your duty extends as far as your conception of unity reaches. You can never say that you're not responsible for what you are conscious of, because the moment you notice something, it belongs to your world, it's your truth. It's very inspiring to combine these thoughts with the motto of the Theosophical Society, Satyat Nasti Paro Dharma. There is no religion higher than truth. In fact, this Dharma is not just religion, it's the synthesis of religion, philosophy, and science. It is the wisdom religion, the Theosophia, the teaching of the gods. Nobody can claim this universal Dharma to be his own or his group's. It's so universal, so above all human conceptions and understanding, that we can grasp only a part of it. And we should live according to the part we do understand. That's our own individual Dharma. But we should never forget that our vision of truth, impersonal as it may be, is just a part of it and not the whole truth. If we develop this mentality, if we apply this knowledge in our daily lives, there would only be mutual help, cooperation, and compassion in the world. Nobody would impose their truth, their vision on religion on another human being. Instead, we would stimulate each other to make our vision more universal. How is it possible that this noblest human vision on life and universal concept of religion degenerates and become a religion? For there is a big difference between religion and a religion. The main difference between these two is that religion places the divine within man, whereas a religion places it outside him. Further, a religion has dogmas which cannot be discussed. You have to accept them. It has rules of conduct, the do's and don'ts, for instance, the 10 Commandments of the Old Testament. Those commandments and bans are said to come directly from God or the gods and cannot be discussed either. Finally, you have rituals, some very complicated, like those of the Vedas, and some very simple. The believers of a religion esteem these rules as very important. They are the keys to an afterlife, to paradise, to heaven, they believe. Now, religions, you all probably know, are most of the time a source of unrest, of animosity, yes, even of war. Master Kuthumi clearly characterizes them when he states that they are the chief cause of nearly 2/3 of the evils that pursue humanity ever since that cause became a power. Why is such a sacred faculty of consciousness the source of 2/3 of the evils in the world? Well then, the holiest ideas easily become the source of the most awful cruelties when they are abused. And when religion is interpreted in a way that it isolates the followers of that specific religion from others, there is an abuse. There is a degeneration and therefore a source of evil. Note, man is not evil. It's not because of a congenital malice that humans act like this. It's because most humans identify themselves with their personality, which lives in the illusion of separateness, of disconnection. The personality is simply not capable to grasp the universal religious thoughts. It interprets them anthropomorphically, dwarfs them, and by doing so, it creates its own God or gods. And therefore, although a religion comes from religion, there is a vast difference between the two. And that is the reason why new messengers of the Lord of wisdom and compassion are sent into the world periodically. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I incarnate from age to age for the preservation of the just, the destruction of the wicked, and the establishment of righteousness. In other words, at cyclically determined ages, a new messenger of the Lord of wisdom and compassion brings the same old religion, although the accents and the details may differ from former versions. Superficially, it seems that those messengers bring a new religion, but that is not the case. Religion is intuitive knowledge of the source we all come from. And the so-called founders of religion never invented new tenets or teachings. They clarified the old religion to enable us to redevelop that intuitive knowledge. They wiped away the dust of the ages, willed down upon it by an anthropomorphic way of thinking. Buddha never took action against Hinduism against the doctrine of the Vedas. Jesus, as far as we know, never said that the doctrine of the Jews or the Greek were wrong. And Mohammed recognized the truth of the other religions of his time. At least that's what we learn from the Quran. But if every religion is just a purification of the older ones, you may ask yourself, when did this process start? Well, it started from the moment humans became humans. In the far, far past, we read in the Secret Doctrine, halfway the third root race, when the Manasaputras, the sons of mind, incarnate in human vehicles and awakened our manas, our minds, this process was started. they inspired those intuitive thoughts in us. You can find these ideas in the Greek myths of the Titan Prometheus. Prometheus stole the fire, the flaming intellect, from the gods and gave it to humanity. And all the arts came from Prometheus. That means that not only religion, but also philosophy and science have a divine origin, because Prometheus is the symbol of the Manasaputras. So since man is man, there has been religion, but not necessarily a religion. H.P. Blavatsky puts it like this in The Secret Doctrine. In the common sense, in the common acceptation of the term, neither the Lemurians nor yet their progeny, the Lemuro-Atlanteans, had any religion, as they had no dogmas, nor they had to believe on faith. No sooner had the mental eye of men be open to understanding than the third race felt itself one with the ever-present and the ever-to-be-known invisible all, the one universal deity. Endowed with divine powers and feeling in himself his inner God, each felt he was a man-god in his nature, though an animal in his physical self. And the struggle between the two began from the very day they tasted of the fruit of the tree of wisdom. So since Manas was awakened, there has not only been religion, but also a struggle in every human being between religion and a religion. In other words, man could choose between the one universal deity, the inner God in us, and the personality, the animal in his physical self, as HPB says, who lives in the illusion he is separated from others, and who is therefore willing to invent a religion, his religion, to give him the impression he is something special. There were times in the history of man when religion dominated, but in the more dark ages the world was full of religions and wars among the different believers. Still in the beginning of the fifth root race, when we are in the Satya Yuga, in the golden age of it, mankind had, according to Blavatsky in an article in Lucifer, one universal doctrine, a philosophy common to all, and that men were bound by one religion. And she adds, take it one way or the other, it means most undeniably and plainly that our forefathers believed in that aggregate of subjective and objective facts which form the consistent, logical and harmonious whole called by us the wisdom religion. This is a very important statement. It means that you cannot separate religion from philosophy or science. If you do so, you become mentally crippled and spiritually disabled. These three faculties of our consciousness are the three sides of one diamond. It's the atmic, the buddhic, and the monastic aspect of our composite being. These three are the three logoi of the Greek, the not manifested, the half manifested, and the manifested logos. The not manifested logos in us is our unspeakable understanding that there is an omnipresent deity, the whole, the source from which everything emanates. But the phrase I just uttered is impossible to compose or to understand without philosophy. For it is the philosophic element in me that tries to grasp the wordless vision and gives it a vehicle, a form, so I'm able to communicate with you. And living in this manifested world, we need science also. How could we observe all those parts of the whole if we had not a scientific part in us? Resuming, we can give 3 conditions for real religion. The first, and the most important, is the complete universality of it. The tiniest feeling of separateness, of being better than others, or the belief that your religion contains a greater truth than those of others, is like a worm nibbling an apple. Before you realize it, the apple is rotten and cannot be consumed anymore. The second condition is that it should never be separated from science and philosophy. Likewise, it may not conflict with the intellect and with logic. And the third one, it should inspire you to unselfish, compassionate acts beneficial to all that lives. Religion is a part of the human consciousness. It asks and gives answers to questions like, what's the meaning of life? Wherefore are we here on earth? Everybody, even the most persistent atheist, has a religious part. The way we use our religious consciousness determines whether it is a force for disharmony and hate or for harmony and love. Thank you.